Now at 11, breaking news. Tonight, crews are trying to remove a flipped big rig from the 210 freeway in Pasadena. The semi crashed earlier this evening, causing major delays for hours.
That's right, the driver was killed. The crash happened on the Lake Avenue off-ramp on the westbound 210. CBS 2's Greg Mills is live at the scene with the very latest. Greg?
And Jeff and Suzanne, the coroner was here and took the driver's body away about half an hour ago. Looking in here, there are two big tow trucks here, and they're just trying to figure out how to get this big rig up and out of here. The driver of this big rig was killed in this rush hour crash in Pasadena. This heavy-duty tow truck was brought in to upright the truck. Got the view from our helicopter. This is the westbound 210 off-ramp at Lake Street. The big rig ended up on the embankment facing oncoming traffic. A witness told us she heard the crash and ran over.
I came over here, saw a bunch of people actually around the truck, a bunch of cars that actually stopped.
So a lot of good Samaritans.
Yeah, there's at least maybe 5-10 cars that had stopped, and we're trying to dig.
The 210 freeway is usually a crawl in both directions at 6:30 p.m. CHP says witnesses told them westbound traffic was moving well. They believe this big rig was going 55 to 60 miles an hour when it tangled up with a man driving a GMC truck.
We have witnesses that say the pickup truck was coming on from Hill, trying to establish itself in the main portion of the roadway when the big rig collided with that pickup truck.
CHP talked to that truck driver. He wasn't hurt, and his truck wasn't severely damaged. He was allowed to head home. And the big rig is on an embankment. They're just trying to figure out how to get it up and haul it out of here. This should be cleared away well before rush hour tomorrow morning. In fact, they expect to reopen this off-ramp at Lake by 2 o'clock in the morning. And as you can see, the 210 westbound and, frankly, the 210 eastbound, both are moving quite well right now. Reporting live from Pasadena, Greg Mills, CBS 2 News.
Thank you, Greg. Breaking news, Gardena police are looking for a missing teenager with autism. Christian Branch's mother says he was last seen at their home Monday morning. She says he has never walked away on his own before. Anyone with information is asked to contact Gardena PD.
Now to a developing story tonight. Hurricane Florence, a Category 4 storm barreling towards the Carolinas. Landfall expected in just about 48 hours. Millions right now bracing for what could be the worst storm to hit the area since Eisenhower was president. CBS 2's Tom Wade is live at LAX right now, where folks are trying to beat the storm. And Tom, there's some cancellations already, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Jeff. People are definitely trying to beat this storm. And when you talk to folks who are getting off planes from the Carolinas, you get a sense of how scared they are. And time is running out to flee the region.
Crazy, frenzy. Stores are being emptied, no water, everybody's panicking.
Kim Barber at LAX tonight describing the mood in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The city is set to take a direct hit from Hurricane Florence. Kim and her husband traveled here on vacation just 2 days ago. The monster storm forced them to come back home.
They told us that you have to be out by tomorrow at 12, which is today. So we had to rent a car, drive to Charlotte to get a plane out because they were all booked. We couldn't get out of Myrtle Beach.
1 million people have been told to leave the region, causing huge backups on local highways, runs on supplies at local grocery stores, and long lines for fuel.
I had this big party with all my family flying into Charlotte, but I was afraid no one would get out.
Alan Lazar and his wife have a home in the mountains near Charlotte, and even in that area, there are worries about flooding.
And they're talking about 50-mile-an-hour winds and big surges and, 20 inches of rain. So I said, I'll see you later.
Normally when the storms hit the mountains, they say that the mountains can break it up, but they're worried about tornadoes and trees falling in.
And we're not seeing any major delays or cancellations yet, but of course that will change as this storm pushes closer. And don't forget, American Airlines has a hub there in Charlotte, and that could affect travel across the country. Reporting live at LAX, I'm Tom Waite, CBS 2 News.
Of course, we're watching Florence as well. Our Garth Kemp is tracking Florence. He'll take time out to give you the very latest on the storm later on in this newscast.
From going green to seeing red, there's a noticeable change heading to the carpool lane, and thousands of Southland drivers will be affected. CBS 2's Nicole Comstock is live in Corona with the details. Nicole.
That's right. So basically, people that have fuel-efficient cars that have these stickers allowing them to ride in the carpool lanes They knew that this was a temporary incentive, but still a lot of people are starting to stress out about how much longer it could take them and everyone else on the freeways to get to work starting next year. The carpool lane is considered a lifesaver for so many Southern California drivers.
Because I commute from Riverside to Costa Mesa Monday through Friday.
But Nancy Harris and 223,000 other people across the state will soon have to slide over into the standard lanes like the rest of us. The green and white HOV lane stickers on their clean air cars will expire at the beginning of the year.
45-minute commute versus a 2-hour commute.
From January on, only people who purchase clean air cars from 2017 to 2018 will still enjoy the perk of carpooling as a party of one, but only if they apply for a replacement red sticker.
I mean, the point of these cars are to save you money, save you gas.
But 13 years after buying his Toyota Prius brand new, Jose Huezo is spending even more money to take the fast track from Corona to Los Angeles.
It's about $400 a month.
He got in on the ground floor of the program when the DMV issued these yellow stickers that lasted for a lot longer. It was an incentive that encouraged more Californians to buy fuel-efficient cars. But now that so many of those cars were purchased, lawmakers passed a bill aimed at clearing congestion in the carpool.
Pretty sad because these cars last a long time.
Now some drivers worry the move could make traffic worse overall.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
And we have a link to the application for those replacement stickers on our website, cbsla.com. Reporting live tonight in Corona, Nicole Comstock, CBS 2 News.
Nicole, thank you. Let's go to some breaking news right now. A man seriously injured in a hit and run at Atwater Village has now died from his injuries. 34-year-old Estras Velasquez was on a scooter when he was hit last week. There is now a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest in that case. Husband and father of 3 has a strong message tonight for the man accused of killing his unborn 4th child and nearly killing his wife. Crystal Kincaid, who was 8 months pregnant, was involved in a crash 2 days ago on North Warren in Hemet. The baby didn't survive, and the suspect, Marcos Forrestal of Burbank, shot this video of the aftermath. In Spanish, he says, "Look what happened to my car." Crystal's husband, Zach, has a hard time watching it.
He didn't even go over there and try to open the door. He didn't go over there and apologize. He didn't go over there to see or do anything. The amount of anger and disappointment in his humanity is undescribable.
Forrestal has been charged with DUI. Kincaid says his wife is still breathing on life support, but her brain shows no signs of life.
2 powerful beams of light soar into the night sky from lower Manhattan tonight, where the Twin Towers once stood. It's been a somber day across the country, filled with tears and tributes to mark the 17th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. In New York, victims' family members placed flowers at the Memorial Plaza at Ground Zero. President Trump attended a ceremony for the victims of Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Survivors and family members laid a wreath at the memorial site in Arlington, Virginia, for the Pentagon victims. Nearly 3,000 people were killed that day in the worst terrorist attack on the U.S. On the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, a local teen is honoring his heroic father, who he never had the chance to meet.
Yeah, Liam Callahan's father died while serving others on that fateful day. Liam born just months later. CBS 2's Rachel Kim is live at the Frank Hopkins Memorial Training Center in Elysian Park, a place where Liam says he feels a special closeness to his father. Rachel?
Jeff and Suzanne, this morning, the city of L.A. held its annual 9/11 remembrance ceremony here, and tonight, a personal ceremony for that 16-year-old remembering his dad.
I never got to meet my father, and I wasn't born yet when these awful tragedies struck.
To 16-year-old Liam Callahan, September 11th is a reminder of what was taken away from him before birth. His father, 44-year-old Liam Callahan, an emergency service unit officer with the Port Authority Police Department.
He's a role model. He's someone I look up to. I always try and live up to the type of man he was.
Liam was born 8 months after his father was killed on 9/11.
He was driving the first truck on the scene. And he went to the North Tower and he was helping people out. His commanding officer told him to leave, and he said, "We're just going in to get one more woman in a wheelchair."
But Officer Callahan never made it out. So through the years, Liam got to know his father through stories. And on every September 11th, he's made sure to attend events to honor those lost. Today, a ceremony of his own as he stood in front of a steel beam salvaged from the World Trade Center at LAFD's Frank Hodgkin Memorial Training Center. He read aloud a tribute to his dad and all the heroes.
And that is the legacy I will take with me, as well as those 2 words, never forget.
I'm so proud of him. He's always made me proud, but on days like this, he makes me even more proud.
This 16-year-old says he's been told he's a lot like his dad, selfless, kind, a great cook, an old soul. Although Liam never knew him, he knows his father is always with him.
I feel like he's watching over me, and I hope he's proud.
Officer Callahan served with the Port Authority Police Department for 22 years. Liam tells us he wants to become a police officer just like his dad. Reporting live tonight in Elysian Park, Rachel Kim, CBS 2 News.
Touching story. Thank you, Rachel. Criminals getting creative, this time posing as food delivery drivers. The effort to catch them before they strike again.
New details tonight about the gunman who terrorized the medical offices in Downey.
And Amazon is branching out what the e-commerce site is doing for the first time this holiday season.
Hey everybody, I'm Garth Kemp. Wow, coming up another great day on tap. I'll have your forecast. It's on the way.
And shamed for working at Trader Joe's, a former Cosby Show actor can add a new job to his resume. Here's a hint. You'll soon see him right here on CBS.
I can't wait. And here's a look at the guests tonight on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.